The U.S. Supreme Court handed President Donald Trump a major victory on Friday by curbing the power of lone federal judges to block executive actions. In a 6-3 ruling stemming from Trump's bid to end birthright citizenship, the court said nationwide injunctions issued by district court judges likely exceed the equitable authority that Congress has granted to federal courts.
The Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. We can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation.
All right, I'm currently joined by Dr. Nee Quarti, senior journalist, joining us from Washington, D.C. How do you read this entire order, Quarti?
Well, it's no doubt that today's Supreme Court rulings, the end of the session, was a major, major victory for the Trump administration. The president saying as much this afternoon in a unusual briefing in the White House press briefing room. The president took questions for about an hour. This was about the second time that President Trump had done that since he has returned to the White House. But taking a very major victory lap as it pertains to federal injunctions. The Supreme Court ruled that any injunction that is imposed by a federal judge has its limits and cannot be projected nationwide. That was a major win for the Trump administration, being that so many of its executive orders have been tied up in the courts because you have judges in very specific parts of the country that are saying that the order cannot go forward nationwide. And so as of today, the Supreme Court has made a major change in that regard. And then also when it comes to LGBTQ rights, the president today saw this as a victory for parents. Parents now have the right to opt out of their kids reading books in schools that reflect the lives and lived experiences of LGBTQ people. Certainly a major setback on two fronts, a major setback for folks looking to slow down the pace of orders coming down from executive orders coming down from President Trump, but also a major victory for conservatives who are on a path to erase LGBTQ characters and to really relegate LGBTQ stories in our schools to second-class status.
Having said that, Dr. Quarti, what are the possible implications that we are looking at, especially for the immigrant community now?
So it's unclear long-term what the implications are related to birthright citizenship. Make no mistake about it. There are many lawyers, of which I am not, that have said that this is a major setback, that this ruling will send a chill across the United States to families that have mixed immigration status. This ruling right here really calls into question something that so many Americans have taken to be settled law: birthright citizenship. If you're born here, then you are a citizen of this country. The fact that this is being called into question, the fact that the president and his supporters are closer than ever to redefining birthright citizenship is a major victory for the president. and a major setback for his opponents.
All right, Dr. Nee Kwatilai Kwati, thank you very much for all those information. In fact, I'm also currently joined by Karthik Ramakrishnan. He is an immigration expert. He joins us from Los Angeles. Karthik, welcome to NDTV. What are the big takeaways from this entire, judgment?
My first takeaway from the decisions are, in fact, that this is very significant. The big issue that the court ruled on is the issue of nationwide injunctions. Essentially, what you had are federal judges in particular states or regions of the country pausing or freezing an executive order from the president, not only in their state or their region of the country, but in the entire country. So the Supreme Court said you cannot do that. But what that means when it comes to birthright citizenship is that there were only less than half the states that were part of the lawsuit challenging that decision. So if you are an immigrant in the state of Texas, for example, say you're on an H-1B visa, you've renewed that H-1B for many years. If your child is born in Texas, they might not be a citizen of the United States. But if your child is born in California, they might be a citizen of the United States. That's what the court is now opening the door for. I don't know how long that door will remain open. Others may challenge these decisions in other states. It might take up to a year for the Supreme Court to rule on it. And they may indeed rule that the executive order is unconstitutional. But you'll have tens of thousands of children, many of them from Indians who are on work visas or student visas, and their children will be in a citizenship middle ground or limbo. They will be uncertain as to whether they qualify for U.S. citizenship or not. But if you're born in California, if your child is born in California, right now they will continue to remain U.S. citizens until the Supreme Court rules on that decision.
Karthik, when do you think the executive order will roll out now?
From what I've read so far in the decision and the reporting on the decision, the executive order can go into effect after 30 days. So starting in August of 2025, the executive order will indeed remain in effect in many of the states in the country, many of the states that have Republican governors and Republican attorneys general. Those rules will apply. Now, someone can bring a case in those states to try to stop that from happening. But it's unlikely. Many of the judges in those states and regions tend to be conservative, and they might let the case play through all the way to the Supreme Court. So this will, in fact, have a pretty significant disruptive effect. What you might also see is many immigrants who are about to give birth moving to states, at least temporarily, that allow for birthright citizenship. So it's a bit chaotic. We expect laws of citizenship to be uniform across the country. But in many ways, we're going back to the period before the U.S. Civil War, where citizenship rules changed depending on which state you lived in.
And in fact, we'll hopefully get more clarity in the coming days as well. Karthik Ramakrishna, thank you very much for speaking with NDTV.